We also
amazing.
have Pokémon for those that like the fighting games.
Okay, okay.
It's very popular. People are waiting for Pokémon 2.
Still waiting away, but you can play Pokémon 1 here. That's really good.
We have
Love
Pokémon Red over there, and we have a challenge. You have to be quick to catch a Jigglypuff.
Oh,
and there's a prize for the fastest one.
And that's the speedrun challenge over there, the
Exactly.
leaderboard. Look at that. Okay, 34 minutes and 22 seconds as the top entry there. 26 minutes I can see down there.
Yes, it's the best time. It's 23 minutes.
23 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, that's really quick. Okay, nice.
And we also have Stadium 1, like, who didn't love Stadium 1 and 2?
Those mini games. Mini games. Yeah, okay.
Years and years playing that. And we have the great GameCube with the Pokemon Coliseum, like...
Okay.
Those games.
This is some real Pokemon history that we've got going on here. That's fantastic. And it looks absolutely mobbed. There's been... I've been coming out time and time again, and this zone has always been filled up to the brim. Have you had a break today at all?
Yes, we had breaks. The team is awesome. Our lead is awesome. We had plenty of breaks. And we are full of energy, giving the best experience possible. Everything here is basically free. We have tournaments, prizes, like, come to an event, enjoy, and just come feel the Pokemon energy.
Now, we haven't been able to see it because it's a little bit out of the area, but you mentioned to me earlier that there's another little area that our trainers can go to as well.
Yes, we have Monopoly, a new one with the new starters that, like, you have Monopoly and at the same time battles.
Okay.
It's super, people are loving it. I didn't learn everything, but it looks like super fun. We have Scrabble, Pokemon Scrabble. We have so many things, like a trading zone. People should come and learn some new games.
It's absolutely fantastic and great to see that there's even more going on at these regional championships than just all of the intense battles that we have during the weekend. Claudio, thank you so much. It looks like there's a little bit of a queue forming behind you, so we're going to let you get back to work. But thank you so much for taking us around.
Ren.
It's been fantastic to have you on the stream. Trainers, stay tuned. We're going to be going to a very quick break, but up next, round 8 of the Birmingham Regional Championships.
Hello, Pokemon trainers, and welcome to Master of Choice, the game where I, Charlie Merriman, as the Master of Choice, ask our two wonderful contestants, Ben Kiriakou and David Partington, to present me with two alternatives for me to choose from. And today, we're going to be debating between Ursaluna and Blood Moon Ursaluna. So, who's going to be representing who?
Well, I'll be taking Ursaluna, Charlie. I'm definitely a fan of the originals.
Okay, and David, that means...
Well, it's got to be Blood Moon Ursaluna.
Okay, then.
It's very potent in its ability to do so much damage at the moment, and especially on the special attacking side as well. As opposed to Ursaluna, which is more on the physical side, which is very prone to intimidate and reflex and all the physically bulky Pokemon in the format. Ursaluna Blood Moon doesn't care about all of that. Pushes straight past it.
Yes, interesting. Ben, what do you have to say?
Having the ability Guts is really my response to that, David, because, yeah, okay, it can be intimidated, but it's got its own way to power itself up with the Flame Orb and Guts ability. That gives it so much power, but also boosts the power of its Facade, which is a double boost to its offenses. And, you know, you can intimidate it as many times as you like, but eventually it's going to knock out that Pokemon doing the Intimidate, and it's going to be able to break through any team.
Question is, David, do you have the guts to come back to that?
Well, Charlie, yes, I do. Using my little insight that I've got and Ursaluna Blood Moon's Mind's Eye, it's very useful, particularly, to be able to hit ghost types with its normal moves, which is something that Ursaluna cannot do. So Flutter Mane comes in, which is on a lot of teams at the moment. Use the move Blood Moon, it's gone.
What is your mind's eye saying there, Ben? What do you have to say to that?
Well, certainly, you know, the Flutter Mane can be switching in on something like a Facade, but because of its physical prowess and the Flutter Mane's inability to take physical attacks, you know, it doesn't need all of that power. It doesn't need the big Blood Moon, which you can only use once in a row. You know, you can use Facade or Headlong Rush as many times in a row as you like, and that's still going to be able to knock out a Flutter Mane very easily. Probably the most prevalent ghost type we have.
You can use Headlong Rush multiple times in a row, but then you are lowering your defensive stats, whereas Blood Moon Ursaluna doesn't so much have that problem.
Well, indeed. And speaking of stats as well, that is something Ursaluna Blood Moon can do very well, is boost them. So Calm Mind is a set actually we've seen a lot of with Blood Moon Ursaluna as well, that does boost up its already very high special attack, and it's slightly lower special defense, which is on the lower side, but it can patch it up with that said Calm Mind move, which is really effective. So suddenly its slightly lower defenses are just astronomical on both sides, and with all the damage behind it on top of that.
Ben, I'm giving you the final word here. Anything you want to respond to?
Well, you know, I would prefer to just have the special bulk in the first place, to be able to switch it in, because, you know, when you've switched it in, it's still going to take those moves before you get those boosts. And Ursaluna can really tank those hits and be able to do that, but it can also raise up its stats with the Sword Stance, which is much faster at putting offensive pressure on an opposing team.
Okay, well, there you have it, Pokemon trainers. Ursaluna versus Blood Moon Ursaluna. Ben and David have done all they can to convince me, and now it's down to me to make a decision. So, David very well argued with Ursaluna, a range of items that it can use, and of course being a special attacker as well that can hit ghost types, that's really nice. Ben, very well argued for you as well. You know, Flame Orb, Guts, Facade is no joke, and so many Pokemon in the meta still have to fear it. So, it's tough. I'm gonna crown the winner as David with Blood Moon Ursaluna. Its Mind's Eye is such a fantastic ability, and the move Blood Moon as well, such a powerful tool. How do you feel?
Oh, incredible. Well, I mean, Charlie, I think I knew I was going to win anyway. It was Blood Moon Ursaluna.
Ben, what do you have to say to that?
I'm going to keep on with Ursaluna. It's the Pokemon that I prefer to use, and, you know, David put a great point together. It is a very viable Pokemon, but for me, tried and tested always wins.
Commiserations to Ben there, and congratulations to David. Well, trainers, thank you for joining us for Master of Choice. Now let's get back to the action.
My name is Simon van der Borgt, also known as Schman. I'm here to compete at the VGC event here. I love competing, and honestly, just meeting friends every time and time again. I started playing competitively in 2017 at the first EUIC. It was quite an experience because I brought a Seaking as well, which was not a very meta-relevant Pokemon at the time. My favorite Pokemon is actually one of the most recent ones, Fuecoco. It is just round, it is cute, it is perfect. The player I look up most to is probably Eduardo Cunha. He's just such an amazing player. He's so good, and I've been able to talk with him as well, and he just has such a different insight of the game, and I love being able to just listen what he has to say about it as well, because he makes the game 10 times more interesting to me. The reason why I'm competing is I love the game. That's first and foremost the most important thing. Being able to meet so many people and doing well and people cheering for me, it is mesmerizing how fun it is when people are cheering for you and you're just together with people and being able to celebrate accomplishments as well. So that's why I try to push myself further and further and beyond, because I get happier, my friends get happier, and that's the way it goes.
My name is Ethan Batchelor, and I won the Stuttgart Regional Championships. My key moment in the final match was when I managed to scale shot Archaludon. At that point, I knew that I could Shadow Ball with a nasty plot setup to finish it off on the next turn. However, people didn't know this, and I heard the crowd cheer that I'd made a mistake. I thought that was quite funny, because I knew in advance that I'd actually just see off the championships. I believe around Lille Championships, I always had most common Pokemon in my team, which was always Goldengo, Incineroar, Dragonite, Sneasler. There was quite a few tough matches in this tournament. I genuinely believe the player level, the skill has gone so high recently. I would say that most of my matches were quite close. Genuinely, so many players are so skilled, and it really shows how passionate the player base is about the game. I would love to be able to sort of bring a more empathetic side to the community where people support and care and team build together. I always strive for that in the community, and I think it's important that the community is caring and inclusive for everyone. I definitely look up to Ben Kiriakou, I'd say. He managed to win the 2012 regional championships so long ago. That was my first tournament, and it inspired me to pick up and learn the game properly. I'm going to go to all the UK tournaments that are coming up. So I'll be at Birmingham, I'll be at London, and at this point, with the regional championship win, I might be going to Worlds. I might take the trip over to America. I think the main thing is just to believe in yourself and have confidence in your ability to build a team and play. You will not get it first time. Learning, it takes a while, it takes mistakes, and it takes tilting and being upset and hating stuff and decisions that you made. It will happen, and it's learning from that, growing, and it will take time. It took me 12 years to get to this position, but anyone can do it. I honestly believe anyone can do it now.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Birmingham Regional Championships. And we'll be shortly getting to round 8, our final round of day 1 here. And that means there's only a last few people before they can lock in that final win to see if they make it into day 2.
And we'll be able to see which of our day 2 players are going to be able to make it all the way tomorrow, of course, with a few rounds of Swiss, followed by our asymmetric Top Cup, where every player with the same record as the 8th place player going into the end of Swiss will be playing to be able to have an opportunity to win this weekend in Birmingham.
100%. Like, Ben, obviously we saw you a bit on stream there just now, kind of like on that Eden kind of profile there. Have you made it a day 2 a few times in your time, Ben?
A couple of times. Actually, and in recent memory as well. I managed to make day 2 at Stuttgart just before the holidays. So, yeah, a little bit more recent than some of my other achievements, which are maybe a little bit further along back.
I seem to remember an Armor Rouge kind of going for a very powerful expanding force.
I don't want to talk about that, David. I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, to be fair, Nemanja played that so well, and yeah, even if I'd have played perfectly, it would have been an uphill battle. And well, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the match, I didn't play perfectly, so you know, that's definitely not an opportunity to get into day 2, but I made up for it in Stuttgart, so I'll take it.
Certainly did. And of course, you're a national champion as well, Ben, so let's not take anything away from that too, all right? So, but for the record though, Kyogre is better than, yeah, whatever this is representing here today, unfortunately.
David, you were doing so well before. You were really laying on the compliments. You were getting me set up just to tear it all down with that Kyogre comment, because it is absolutely Groudon. And we saw Groudon doing so well today. That's been some of my favorite things. I mean, not just Flavio Del Pidio's Groudon, as well as Joe's Groudon, that was able to do so well. Joe, unfortunately, wasn't able to win his match with his Groudon, but at least I'll take one. I'll take one win on stream for Groudon all the way to the bank.
I mean, yeah, if that means we've had a couple of Groudons on stream, that also means that there's most likely even more of them somewhere around in this tournament, and maybe more getting into day 2 as well. And if we were saying the same sort of things last year around the World Championships, I felt like everyone would think we were actually going nuts. Like, yeah, Groudon isn't getting a lot of use. If you want a Sunsetter, you go for Torkoal on a Trick Room team, or you go for Koraidon. But Groudon seems to be really making waves, or making blades, I should say, with that signature move. It's like spread damage, doing so much damage as well, and actually running the double ground move to be able to get around those wide guards.
Yeah, and so like this format is not one where it's easy all the time to be able to set up. If you want to be able to set up, we've seen it with Kyogre teams, we've seen it with Calyrex Shadow teams, where you have to have a lot of support. That Incineroar, Rillaboom, Urshifu core usually is the main way that trainers are opting to support their restricted Pokemon getting set up, but you just don't have the time. And even Pokemon like Raging Bolt that used to opt for a more calm mind setup in the previous time we had Regulation Set G, actually now they're more commonly opting for Life Orb and just going for damage and trying to get quick KOs to pave the way for the rest of their team.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on Raging Bolt, honestly, because I think that's a Pokemon we've seen the development of ever since it was introduced last year as well, where I think we quite commonly saw the Assault Vest set kind of generally everywhere to kind of patch up that slightly lower special defense. And then we saw it morph into maybe a Leftovers Carmine set, then it morphed into Booster Energy for a little bit. Now we're on Life Orb. Like, where is it going to go next?
Oh, well, who knows? What I do know is where we're going to go next, David, and it's going to be into our community choice. Oh. Yes, that's right. You are going to be able to get the opportunity to vote in the chat as to which matchup you want to see. Of course, kicking us off, Marco Moraz versus Jack Clark. And there it is, Okie Dokie and Iron Jugulus as well. Jack up to his usual shenanigans. Is that an Iron Leaves as well?
Yeah, it is.
That's pretty cool. Lee Watson versus Taron Birdie, Reese versus Alex, and Juan versus Marco Silva.
Wow, okay, so we've got some amazing names there. I'm not sure if we've got time to cover all of these. Obviously, Marco Silva there, our LAIC champion, two-time LAIC champion, in fact, actually, using that Miraidon. But no, not the signature Sun stuff he's been doing for a while, but still a very accomplished player there. Taron Birdie, a very top UK player at the moment too, also using a very similar Miraidon team to what Marco's been using there too. And Marco Moraz up there as well, an Italian player who was the runner-up, I believe, to one of the regionals last year at some point.
I think it might have been Liverpool, you know.
Potentially, yeah.
Got a feeling.
One of the really early ones last year.
Yeah,
almost.
We'll have to double check it. I think Barcelona might have been a little bit of a culprit there. But Jack, of course, we had on stream as well last year in our regional championships. I remember running a Toxtricity in regulation set H of a Hydreigon. That was such a fun match to watch and such a great team to really be able to witness in regulation set H. A really great player in the UK community as well. So yeah, great matches all the way across the board. Trainers, get into chat, vote for what match you want to see, and we'll David, I'm losing my words. It's the end of the day, round 8, but let's try and get these in the right order. You will be able to vote for the match that you want to see.
Absolutely, exactly. Pick the name, pick the team that you would like to see the most, and we'll see if we can get them sorted for you. Absolutely. Yeah, and the Okie Dokie there is something I think we've seen in maybe other regulations without restrictors, but actually with it here, it's a really interesting choice. Kind of using that guard dog ability, sort of like Defiant. Maybe not quite as good, but you still get a boost from Intimidate instead of a drop, and you can't be switched out in case someone was going for Aurora or Whirlwind or something, or Dragon Tail even. But it's a really nice pick to, instead of King Gambit, to have completely different typing as well. Offering that poison typing, just like Sneasler does, is really, really effective into all those Terra Fairy Pokemon that are everywhere.
Now, another Pokemon that's really great into Terra Fairy Pokemon, of course, Reese and Alex, both sporting Zacian Regidrago compositions there that I've just managed to get my eye on, and that could be a really interesting mirror match. Certainly one of the more explosive matches that we could be having. So, yeah, I'm excited for all of them.
Yeah, 100%. So, let's see who we're going to have. If you're excited for all of them, you'll be happy either way, Ben. So let's see who we're having on stream for our final round of our day 1 here in Birmingham. Miraidon, is it going to be? Is it going to be Groudon, Koraidon? Is it going to be Iron Leaves? Is it going to be Drippin? Dondozo? What are other Pokemon as well?
I don't know. We're going to be able to see. I mean, it is great as well that we are able to feature the community choice as well, because it really does give us the opportunity to interact with you guys and see exactly what you want to see. We pick up most of the time, but it is, of course, Juan versus Marco Silva, and what a match that we're going to be able to witness here. Both of these players are absolutely fabulous in their own right, and it's a completely different team composition on either side. So both of these trainers have really got to think about what they want to be achieving in this matchup and how they are going to go about it. Of course, Juan playing that Calyrex Shadow Rider sort of composition with the Weezing and Tatsugiri Dondozo. And he's a really experienced player, a really good player with Dondozo. He's been sporting it in regulation set H as well. So he's well practiced in being able to use this kind of composition and just adapting it into the regulation set G format. And of course, Well, Marco Silva, if you've just joined us, maybe needs an introduction, but to anyone that's been in the video game community for just a little while, Marco is a household name in our community.
Oh, yes, exactly. Like, if there's anyone you need to know, it's Marco Silva, honestly. Like, he's been so, good at Pokemon, honestly, in the last few years. And getting multiple runner-up positions as well at regional level events, too. Maybe not that quite champion title sometimes. Just showing how consistent he is, too. But I'm really keen to see this Calyrex Shadow team on the left there, with the Dondozo Tatsugiri mode as well. And, of course, the neutralizing gas and that wheezing. So many options that not every single player might be preparing for here when you consider our restricted, the normal fire, water, grass kind of balance cores we've got. This is something completely different. And so many Pokemon rely on their abilities, like Farigiraf with its Armor Tail to block priority moves. Wheezing completely shuts that off too. And Calyrex Shadow Rider arguably doesn't really need its ability, to be honest. It's so powerful.
Well, which one?
Well, there you go, yeah, exactly. Well, nobody rungs berries because of the As-1 ability all the time on half of the restricteds everybody uses. And the Grim Nay boost, you already got the KO in the first place. You don't need more boosts.
I bet, if they're coming, let them keep coming. Just get yourself going with the game and just make sure that, you're in the best possible position. Yeah, I think that's the real thing about this particular matchup is Joan is running a team that is really trying to target down the meta, target down all those Pokemon with abilities, and really trying to disrupt their opponent and take advantage of that to be able to win. Whereas Marco's running just good Pokemon in a good composition that we know works. We saw it at the World Championship. Yes. It got all the way to the final, it won, and it was able to go all the way. I'm sure there's been some adaptations since the World Championships from Luca Ceribelli's team, but Marco is running just the solid composition that he thinks gives him the best chance. And of course, with a player like Marco that's so experienced and so skilled at the game, and is able to understand all those win conditions, has played all of these matchups before, it's about the decisions that he makes and the way that he approaches a matchup that's important. So where Joan is trying to disrupt, Marco's just trying to play the game and play it better than everybody else.
And what I love about Marco as well, I think when he got runner-up at Toronto to Wolf Lake last year, I think he was obviously running the same team quite consistently across multiple events. Yeah. And obviously everybody was very much aware of his team because of how successful it was. And was starting to get aware of what the training was like in each of the Pokemon, how fast they were, how defensive they were, and offensive they were.
I definitely played it. Yeah. Not piloted by Marco in Stuttgart.
Exactly. Yeah. And so eventually he started speed kind of creeping himself in terms of how he trained his Pokemon. He made them faster and faster and faster and faster each time so that he would still keep outspeeding everybody who tried to kind of use his own team against him, which is so cool. So actually seeing him use Luca Ceribelli's sort of team, I wonder if he's done the same thing here. Did a little tweaks just to make it slightly better in lots of different ways.
I think that's definitely something that a lot of trainers that will be thinking about because, of course, Luca's team is very well known. Many people watch the World Finals, rightly so, because it was an excellent match. But let's take a little bit of a break to have a look at the standings here. Celatine Stern taking our top position there with a 7-0 record. Calvin Foster, who we saw on stream, 7-0. Groudon.
No,
piloted by Flavio Del Pidio.
Oh, I thought Calvin had Kyogre though. That's what I'm
Calvin
saying.
did have Kyogre. I guess it's one position above Groudon, isn't it? But Groudon is in the top 3 of our standings right now, so I'm going to take that.
Well, let's see who else we have down here as well. Sorry. Can't stand by that.
Oh, the dad jokes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I love it.
But yeah, so many other players as well. Obviously, lots of players who are 6-1 as well. And as long as you've kind of got that sort of record where you're at least X2, you're probably most likely into day 2. But of course, all of these records still matter as to whether you're getting into Top Cut or not. So even if you're playing tomorrow, any wins now still count.
It's a win that you don't have to get tomorrow because, of course, we are playing an asymmetrical Top Cut. If you go in undefeated and win at least one game, you're probably going to make the asymmetrical cut. And that takes a lot of pressure off day 2. You can go, get some dinner after this is all finished, get a little bit of rest in you, and go into the next day, just to our day 2, not feeling quite as much to have to be able to do in day 2.
And here are our players sat down, getting ready to go. Joan Pereo and Marco Silva there on the stage. I think Joan's been on a couple of times as well and done a few good regionals in his time too.
Top 8s, top 4s.
Exactly, which we will see a list of very shortly. And of course, Marco Silva there as well. He's probably here more than he is at home, honestly, isn't he?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it could be getting to that stage where...
got a Marco Silva-shaped chair everywhere because he's just so much on stream all the time.
He does come on stream, and rightly so. I mean, it's always great to see him, and the way that he's approaching these matchups and the way that he plays, it really does give us a bit of a masterclass in how to use whatever team that he's bringing. He's so consistent between Toronto, Latin American International Championships. In Regulation Set H, he must have had one of the best win-loss competitive records out there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, like, yeah, if someone could do the maths on that would be amazing. But yeah, honestly, you just know, right? You just know, you see him so much. He's got so many championship points, and I believe he's #1 at the moment on the EU Championship leaderboard at the moment.
He certainly is.
So much championship points, and he's still got an auto invite anyway. So
yeah, I mean, you know,
so impressive.
At the end of the day, it comes down to more than just the championship points in the prizing at that point. It's also about just that, keeping that consistency up, because it's not the regional championships and the international championships that you are really targeting down. Marco's been there, Marco's done that, but what Marco hasn't done yet is won the World Championships. And to be playing in that ballpark, you've got to be playing amongst the best trainers out there, and getting a deep run in a regional and international is one of the best ways to be able to test your skills in that environment.
100%, Ben. I think you hit the nail on the head there. But what I really like about bringing these two top trainers here is that we can really learn from their strategies as well. And there is Joan Pereo's achievements. So Liverpool Regional Top 8, EUIC Top 4 as well, almost a year and a half ago now. Global Challenge 1 Top 4, that's incredible.
That's really hard.
Thousands of players playing the Global Challenge.
Best of 1.
Best of 1 as well, so showing that they've got some prowess in both Best of 1 and Best of 3, closed or open team sheets.
Marco Silva's got a lot of numbers next to his name as well. Toronto regional finalist, of course, that we mentioned, losing out to Wolf Glick in the final, having a fantastic run overall. The 2019 Jönköping regional champion, a 3-time international champion, 1 in OC and 2 in the Latin American region, and of course 2 times world top 16.
There's probably a bit more on there as well, Ben, isn't there? It would just keep going up and up and up and up, and we wouldn't see Marco anymore.
Yeah,
it would be a shame, actually.
I mean, it would be a shame. Maybe bridges onto Joan's side a little bit with the way that they're angled up there. But yeah, I mean, Marco, as we said, needs no introduction there. And I remember in 2019, I was playing in that Jönköping Regional Championship. Oh. Marco and I played in top 4, and Marco obviously was able to win that match. Let's get back to that a little bit later, actually, David, because we are going to get a deeper dive into Joan's team.
There it is, the Calyrex Shadow Rider with that Life Orb for almost maximum damage, running the dual same type attack bonus moves, Astral Branch and Psychic, but also just Hyper Beam for good measure with that Terra Normal as well. Just for the most powerful damage attack you can kind of possibly imagine, to be honest. And along with a, you could say supporting cast, but honestly your Dondozo Tatsugiri mode is maybe something of an alternative strategy once your Calyrex Shadow's kind of gone off the field, or maybe you bring it in later as well. And something that a lot of trainers probably aren't prepared for too. With that Order Up, that Tatsugiri is going to be giving attack boosts most likely with that red tinge it's got.
Yes.
And with that Body Press and Earthquake too, it's going to be able to dish out even more damage, even if it's going to be intimidated.
The thing I like about this team composition that Joan's running is that you have the option to slow down the game a little bit with the Dondozo Tatsugiri option. You have the fast defensive Life Orb Calyrex Shadow Rider with that Terra Normal Hyper Beam, but you can also play it slow. Speaking about playing it slow, that's definitely something that Marco is not going to be opting for at all with this team composition. We know it, we love it. Miraidon, Whimsicott, Farigiraf, Urshifu, and it's the single strike variant actually. Half Flame, Ogerpon, and Iron Hands.
There it is, a very strong, tried and tested, general sort of team base there. And yeah, the Urshifu single strike is something that some trainers have been starting to adapt towards a little bit more, to offer that dark typing to be able to hit all those Terra Ghost Pokemon that are generally just everywhere, particularly in Incineroar as well. Suddenly you can hit it outside of Terra and inside of Terra really effectively, and Wicked Blow just gets around that, it intimidates too.
Yeah, I really like that call out actually, because Incineroar can be a little bit of a problem. It's less so of a problem when you have the option for Farigiraf and to be able to pivot around it, but certainly something that you've really got to be respecting in any format where it's viable.
And particularly here as well, when you're versus a Dondozo. Obviously, Dondozo naturally resists Surging Strikes, but doesn't resist Wicked Blow, and because of the guaranteed critical hit, it gets through those +2 defense boosts, and with the Savoca Sash, it's able to survive at least one attack, so I think it's going to be a really key Pokemon in this matchup.
Here we go, we're going to get things started here. Urshifu, Single Strike, and Iron Hands coming out, and it is the Wheezing Calyrex Shadow Rider for Joanne.
So a really key lead here for both of these players, honestly. Marco's led two Pokemon that don't really worry about their abilities too much here, because if Calyrex is going to go for the Protect this turn, then Urshifu obviously can't hit through it with its Unseen Fist kind of turned off at the moment. But then Weezing isn't too worried itself anyway from either of those attacks. Question is, I don't know how heavy Weezing is, so how much damage it would take from a Heavy Slam from this Iron Hands remains to be seen. But it looks like Urshifu's going on the defensive.
Going for a Detect and making sure that it's not going to fall foul of a Fairy-type Dazzling Gleam from the Weezing, Galarian Weezing there. Astral Barrage going to land down into the Iron Hands, getting a critical hit, boosted by the Life Orb. That's going to be a lot of damage onto Marco's side of the field, and I must admit, David, I missed that Toxic Spikes on the Weezing, but what a great call there with the Dondozo Tatsugiri, just making sure that everything's on a timer. Looks like Weezing is a little bit on the lighter side.
Yeah, I think so. That's still quite a lot of damage there. So, yeah, Weezing does, though, stick around, and that's really the key thing here, because it's able to keep those items, or those abilities, rather, at bay a little bit longer, and still threatens with a second Toxic Spikes if needed. So we can probably say that, from Marco's perspective, we can probably tell that Joanne is maybe setting up for that Dondozo in the back here, because Dondozo really loves their opponents to be ticking down their HP with those poisons, just like Glamora used to back in Regulation Set Age.
Well, after that critical hit, Iron Hands is on the retreat, and it's Whimsicott coming into the fray. Not going to have a Prankster ability as well, really important to note, while the Weezing is on the field. And an Astral Barrage comes out from the Calyrex, not fearing that Urshifu whatsoever, and just putting a lot of damage onto the Whimsicott, onto the Urshifu. Wicked Blow going into the Weezing, so Calyrex is able to hang on this turn. Critical hit on the Weezing. Abilities are back, David.
Abilities are certainly back. For now, for this game at least anyway. And that means the Whimsicott can now actually outspeed this Calyrex with its Prankster moves. And that means that it can go for a Tailwind to be able to make sure this Urshifu does outspeed the Calyrex and can get that KO even if a Protect comes out too. But of course, Dondozo is now in here, and Joanne has a fairly simple switch Calyrex into Tatsugiri and boost everything up on this Dondozo and KO the Urshifu to stop it getting those Wicked Blows through its defense boost and then take it from there. Of course, the Whimsicott has the option of going for an Encore, and if there's a particular move that Joanne can lock into that is beneficial for Marco, then that could be a really good game plan for Marco to be able to stall out this Dondozo and make sure it's going for moves that aren't very effective against the whole of Marco's team.
We're seeing the effect of Toxic Spikes coming in here, because that Whimsicott is not going to be able to hang on too long, and it doesn't matter. As long as the Dondozo is able to target down into the Whimsicott on Joanne's side, Marco's going to have a little bit of a tough time here. And here it is, you call it out, David. Dondozo and Tatsugiri combining, and Dondozo getting all of those boosts. And because it has access to Earthquake, it's going to be able to probably pick up the knockout on the Whimsicott. If not, the Poison's going to take it. Might pick up the KO on the Urshifu, but if not, Poison is going to take it.
100% though. Whimsicott does actually switch out this turn. No Tailwinds to speak of at the moment. And Iron Hands comes in this time as well. So actually, we might even see this Dondozo outspeed this Urshifu depending on its training here. But we're not going to find out this turn thanks to that Detect on that Urshifu.
And it's going to be the Body Press coming out from Dondozo, targeting down into the Urshifu's Protect. So now Marco has positioned a Fake Out onto the field so that he can more safely go for a Fake Out and a Wicked Blow, followed up probably by a Wicked Blow if he can find a way to get that Whimsicott back onto the field with another Protect, and follow it up with the second Wicked Blow to be able to try and pick up the KO. Because that's the real key here. Because the Calyrex is in the back, Marco really wants the Urshifu in the endgame.
Yeah, you definitely want it because you've got that sucker punch to be able to hit that Calyrex if it goes for any sort of attack. So here's the Terra Stella here now. Marco knows that this is his opportunity to get as much damage as possible with this Urshifu, and most likely the one attack it's going to get off this time. But that is all it needs with that Terra Stella, which gives those one-time boosts. So Fake Out, Wicked Blow was going to go through any sort of protect anyway, and let's see how much damage this does to this Dondozo. That's a big chunk right there.
Wow, really lucky that it got the critical hit as well.
I know you're paying attention, Benjamin.
Yeah, no, great amount of damage there, but now the second Wicked Blow is going to be a little bit less powerful. And I'm not sure, my damage intuition says that this Dondozo is going to be able to hang on after a second Wicked Blow now that it doesn't have the Terra Stella boost. And so that causes quite a few problems, actually, for Marco's game plan, because the idea of protect and get in the Whimsicott doesn't quite work in the same way.
Yeah, exactly. So it looks like the Whimsicott is going to come in for possibly a bit of a stack at the moment. So the Earthquake gets the KO on the Whimsicott. And then, yeah, you get the Iron Hands back in again for another Fake Out plus Wicked Blow play, which is really, really nice. And that starts to put the Dondozo in range then of the probable Miraidon in the back, which will naturally outspeed Dondozo most likely. Because Dondozo, I don't think it's even possible to outspeed a very speedy Miraidon. And therefore, if the Dondozo goes for either Terra into the grass or not, it should still be in range thanks to a follow-up Wicked Blow from Urshifu.
I'm looking at the end game though, David. I'm looking at if the Miraidon is in the back and the Dondozo is able to knock out the Urshifu, is there a Terra Normal Hyper Beam? Does that KO a Miraidon? I kind of feel like it does.
Yeah, it might do. Yeah.
Like, why, like, that must be one of the reasons that you've got to be thinking about when you're picking Hyper Beam and putting it on your set. Like, you want to be knocking out the Pokemon that you naturally just about outspeed. Not many other Pokemon outspeed Miraidon, but Calyrex does. And with the Whimsicott knocked out and no speed control on Marco's side, is that the window of opportunity that Juan has?
Well, exactly. Now, interestingly, Juan does actually go for the Protect here, potentially to scout out for a Sucker Punch from Marco's end, which, because otherwise the Dondozo would naturally outspeed the Urshifu and take it out if it tried to go for a Wicked Blow here. And that means Juan, if he's able to pull this off, we'll get a little bit of extra leftovers recovery and we'll be able to see what this Miraidon locks into.
Okay, Protect coming out from the Dondozo. Let's see what the lock is. It's a Draco Meteor. And of course...
No Sucker Punch, go on.
Yeah, no Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch probably wouldn't get the KO anyway, but the close combat will be doing some damage. And I think this is a really clever close combat into the Tatsugiri slot, because if the Dondozo goes for the Protect, then you don't lower your defenses, and that might be important for some muddy water calculations in the end game with this Tatsugiri.
But now Dondozo has the option to go for a Terra into the grass type if it so wants to be able to take on any particular electric attacks. But because the Draco Meteor was locked into here, then it still puts John in a position where Terra isn't going to necessarily save them. No. But is Draco Meteor enough damage? Let's find out. Into this top +2 Dondozo. Well, it's a critical hit, so it goes straight through the special defense boost. Dondozo goes absolutely down.
Down and out for the count, and Tatsugiri, of course, coming back into the fray. It's going to have to take a Wicked Blow and going to be easily able to take it down to its Focus Sash. 2 critical hits in a row.
Hey, Marco's so lucky, isn't he? With those Wicked Blows every single time. Well, another tick of poison from that Miraidon here. And of course, the Sash keeping that Tatsugiri, like, very much alive still, makes sure it's going to be able to get another attack off if it's possible. But because both the Urshifu and the Miraidon are naturally faster, the Tatsugiri might end up going down here. But Tatsugiri does have Helping Hand, so it might be able to...
That is the play. That is absolutely the play here. Go for the Helping Hand, get the Terra Normal, make sure that you're not getting knocked out by the Sucker Punch. Of course, Marco's Miraidon has taken a bunch of poison chip damage as well. You don't have to commit the Hyper Beam and then not be able to move the next turn. We already saw the Life Orb Astral Barrage being able to do more than 50% damage to the Urshifu without a critical hit. And so, yeah, Urshifu's going to be in a little bit of a difficult situation. But this is a cool interaction here. In fact, actually, the Iron Hands is just going to go down. There's going to be no fake out next turn.
Yes, most likely. Yeah, I think this is an Astral Barrage. Yeah, it's not going to miss, and that is why people use Calyrex Shadow Rider, honestly, over Precipice Blades, for instance, on Groudons.
Maybe even over Origin Pulse.
Well, you've got Water Spout on Kai, and look, a Calyrex Shadow Rider! Again, going for Terra Normal. How cool is that?
Yeah, that is pretty cool. And it's a really good adaptation here because it does mean that you're not susceptible to most of the damage-dealing moves and not being hit super effective by most of the damage-dealing moves that we use in Regulation Set G. Now here it is, the boosted Astral Barrage from the Life Orb, from the Helping Hand, picking up the double KO to a Grim Nay boost. No more Helping Hand required.
Absolutely not. And Calyrex Shadow Rider is naturally faster than Miraidon by quite a bit, honestly. And most likely this is trained to be exactly that. Faster than all those Miraidon to be able to get these really crucial KOs, like you mentioned, Ben, with those Hyper Voices too. Or if you've just got Helping Hand, that works out pretty well too, because if you go for Hyper Beam right now, you could miss. But I think with the Life Orb, Helping Hand, Astral Barrage, especially with that chip, should be enough to wrap up this game one for Joanne.
And single target too, can't forget that.
Oh, cannot forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely Joanne's game, as long as Joanne locks into an Astral Barrage or a Psychic there into the Miraidon. Of course, Marco knows that. He's a very experienced player. And just deciding to forfeit. Let's get ourselves into Game 2. Speaking of Game 2, David, I mean, that was absolutely back and forth, but Joanne seemed to have a little bit of an advantage in the way that they played it quite aggressively with the Calyrex Shadow Rider before bringing in that Dondozo Tatsugiri combination and trying to take advantage of Marco predicting that the Calyrex was going to play defensively instead.
100%.
Do you think we're going to see the same sort of bait coming out from Joanne? And do you think Marco's going to play that a little bit safe for this match?
I mean, it's a good question because, yes, in theory, yeah, if everything goes the exact same way and Marco just decides to target the Calyrex Shadow Rider instead, then, yeah, the Calyrex Shadow suddenly goes down and then it's a completely different game, right? Because there's no end game there where Joanne then suddenly sweeps the field after Dondozo goes down. So, but is Joanne going to let that happen again? Like, if I were Joanne, I'd be trying to think of a slightly different strategy here. Or even if you're going to go for the same lead, you can still switch things up in terms of the moves you've chosen to use. Because as you said, he just went straight on the offensive here. Because it's quite obvious, right? Weezing plus Calyrex Shadow Rider. Oh, I can protect from your Urshifu now. It's such an obvious thing to suddenly do because it's the most obvious thing from Marco's perspective. But like with Joanne probably practicing so much with this team, he knows how people tend to play in Game 1.
And let's see how they're going to be playing in Game 2. The same leads coming out, of course, for actually both trainers here. The Calyrex and the Weezing, the Iron Hands and the Urshifu single strike. But as you said, David, it's about how these trainers are going to be approaching this matchup. Whether or not the fake out goes into the Weezing and the Urshifu just goes straight on the offensive, goes for a Wicked Blow into Calyrex, puts it into Sucker Punch range for later. That could be absolutely critical. Of course, one of the nice things about the Miraidon in this matchup, thinking about the Dondozo that's potentially in the back for Joanne, is that the Miraidon can just carry on going for Draco Meteor after Draco Meteor. The drops are affected by Unaware as well. So it might be that Marco's thinking, hey, I can actually, if I get enough damage onto the Calyrex at this point in the game, maybe I can use that to have a little bit of a better end game instead of what happened in Game 1.
It's the Terra Normal coming out from this Calyrex Shadow Rider immediately in this turn. And that's going to be able to allow it to survive any of those dark type attacks that this Urshifu might be able to dish out, especially if it doesn't go for a Terra Stella. If it does go for a Terra Stella, then suddenly I'm not sure as to whether it will KO or not, but it's not. It is that Terra Bug that we did see at the World Championships by Luca Ceribelli, and that means it's going to be able to take on any Psychics that might be coming out a lot better, as well as the Train
we called it!
There it is, the Psychic into that Iron Hands, doing half as much as it would have done before, followed up by this Urshifu with that Wicked Blow. But This should be able to survive. Yes, it does.
Just a sliver of HP, and it is a double up on the Iron Hands, and look, that did more than 50% damage, so it would have picked up the KO had Marco not opted for that Terror Bug. The follow-up of Heavy Slam going into Wheezing, and we know how much damage that does. So Joanne now on a little bit of the back foot here, where Urshifu has just managed to get the Wicked Blow onto Joanne's side of the field for free. There's no Toxic Spikes this time round either that Wheezing was able to set up in the last round. And that extra little chip, that breaking the Focus Sash coming out. In fact, it didn't break a Focus Sash, but it did a little bit of chip damage to the Ride, a little bit of chip damage to the Whimsicott as well. It's not there anymore.
But something Velka could do here is potentially getting Whimsicott to potentially encore any defensive play Joanne might be able to do here, which he does indeed do here. But no switches to be seen just yet, unless a KO happens, and that Sucker Punch isn't going to go anywhere, as a Poison Gas comes out from Wheezing this time.
Just breaking that Focus Sash and just causing a little bit of damage turn after turn after turn onto that Iron Hands, putting it on a timer so that it's not quite going to be as threatening as once it was over time.
Wheezing goes down this time now, and that means abilities are back on the field. Abilities are back, as you said.
Abilities are back.
Abilities are back. There we go. That's our new hashtag for the weekend, I think. And then, yeah, so there's, as you said, Ben, the Urshifu has now lost the ability to use its Focus Sash with that HP chipped down here. And as you can see, the same game plan in the back for Joanne. That Calorie Charger Rate is still around here. But interestingly, the Tatsugiri is the one that's being switched in here. So
I like that.
Yeah, potentially setting up for the threat of like a Helping Hand plus Astral Barrage. But of course, there is that Sucker Punch still very much a threat here. But yeah, I like this play here too, though. If you can get around that Sucker Punch potential and go for the Protect, which will work versus Sucker Punch because it's not an attacking move, you might be able to KO it around that with the Tatsugiri instead.
And it's possible that Tatsugiri actually outspeeds this Urshifu depending on the way that each of these Pokemon has been trained. One thing is that the Tatsugiri is going to be faster than the Iron Hands, so after the Sucker Punch fails on the protecting Calyrex Shadow Rider, the Draco Meteor does in fact knock out the Urshifu, and it will be going back to Marco. But Terra Normal does make you susceptible to those fighting type moves, and Iron Hands gets off a Drain Punch and is able to knock out that Calyrex Shadow Rider. Now the Dondozo that we know is in the back for Joanne is going to come in. That's going to combine with Tatsugiri and give it its boosts, but there's been a lot of damage done, and it is now down to the Miraidon to be able to dispatch of the Dondozo. I
mean, 100%. The Terror's already spent, and Miraidon, with the Choice Specs, with that Electro Drift, is probably going to be enough to even through those boosts.
The Electro Drift as well, yeah, it doesn't even have to go for... But, yeah, Draco Meteor usually would be the more powerful move if the Terror option was available, but yeah, since it's not, absolutely. And of course, the Electro Drift does get even more powerful when it's hitting super effective.
100% exactly. Well, not 100%. It gets another third to its damage if it's super effective as well. So there's so much power there. And plus the Hadron Engine ability of Miraidon just gives it more special attack anyway when it's an electric terrain. So it's an immensely powerful attack.
And it's not even classed as a stat boost, so it does go through unaware as well.
Yeah.
And just with that, it looks like Marco is going to be taking game 2 here. We're going to be going in round 8 to a game 3. And you can see the look of relief on Marco's face.
You certainly can. I mean, both of these players are at a win and in at the moment. They've both at X and 2. See those 5 and 2 records? If they lose this one, that's gone from contention from Top Cut.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, this is all on the line right now as to whether or not these players are going to carry on in the tournament. 5 and 2 is not where we usually see these trainers, but of course the field out there is so difficult to be able to navigate, and you've got to make sure that you're on point if you're going to compete in this caliber of field. Both of these trainers absolutely have the ability to. Both of these trainers, if they go 6 and 2, could absolutely win the whole thing. But it's about which one of them makes the right calls in game 3 to take it all the way.
There you go, exactly. And what is going to happen this turn? I mean, there's so many options you can do with the lead that we can discuss here. And that's just that specific lead. There's so many other Pokemon that we could potentially see here as well. Now, I do wonder if Farigiraf could be the play here as well, honestly. Because if you're leading that, a normal type, obviously you'll be probably able to take some of the Calyrex Shadow Rider attacks here too. And with that foul play, kind of threaten it to go for that Terror to kind of escape it too. That's why foul play is so critical and really useful on Farigiraf, because it doesn't matter if Farigiraf isn't that offensive, it's based on the opponent's attack stat, and when you're 4 times weak to it, Calyrex Shadow is a legendary Pokemon, it's going to drop to that foul play unless it goes for that Terror. And that means Dondozo's not going for a Terror, and that means, as we saw in Game 2, Miraidon could just pick it off at the end.
See, the one way that you could get around the Farigiraf might be that Hyper Beam, but that does cause some problems. But we're not seeing it in the leads for the moment, just the same leads from both of these trainers. They know how they want to approach the matchup. It is down to the decisions that they want to make at the point in time. And it is that Wheezing Calyrex and Iron Hands and Urshifu single strike.
Certainly is. So we'll see how this term kind of plays out here, because Calyrex is still generally safe to protect here, and Weezing with the Covert Close obviously immune to a fake out, and so Heavy Slam's gone into that target every single time. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if maybe Marco tries to capitalize on that and just gets rid of it turn 1 this time, to be able to turn the abilities back on, at least accept that if you accept the damage from this Calyrex Shadow Rider, at least you can then hopefully pick it off the next turn. You just need to get 1 turn right, then you either Sucker Punch it to get it right, or you Wicked Blow to get it right, and then the Calyrex is done. No matter if it kind of terrors or not at that point, because you've already got it quite low if it's spent the Terror normal.
Well, we're going to see a Terror straight off the bat for our trainers here, kicking off our Game 3 of Round 8 in the Birmingham Regional Championships. It's going to be Terror Bug on the Iron Hands again for Marco, trying to play on the defensive, knowing how important that Iron Hands is as a piece of his puzzle. Calyrex going on the defensive, going for a Protect in this turn. And it is down to the Urshifu to try and target into it. Oh, that's so satisfying. Urshifu targeting down into a Protect, and it is that Toxic Spikes, of course, landing out onto Marco's side of the field to get some chip damage on the Pokemon that Marco still has in the back.
So the Toxic Spikes are now laid yet again, so setting up for that Dondozo in the end game is going to be really crucial. So I wonder if John's going to try not to spend that Terror at the moment, because as soon as that Miraidon comes in and the Dondozo can't Terror, it's suddenly just a sitting duck to be able to go down to that Electro Drift. So I think John here needs to kind of just get the chipping down onto this Urshifu, break that Focus Sash.
Oh, it's a Sucker Punch. He calls it absolutely right. It's a one-hit KO onto the Calyrex Shadow Rider. And Marco, that is why he is one of the players that we watch in the video game, because he can make those calls. It's a winning in, it's Game 3, and he got it absolutely spot on.
Absolutely did. There's the Drain Punch into, what was the Weezing? So yeah, looks like a cover there for the Terra Normal, so that you were able to still get the KO regardless into that slot as well. So the only thing that might have punished that was a Dondozo and Tatsugiri switch as well. So actually a really nice play from Marco there to be able to kind of mostly safely kind of get that KO.
And Dondozo now coming in, but it's going to be at a disadvantage unless Weezing is switching out. That, of course, turns all the abilities back on and allows Urshifu to target down the Dondozo to get a chance to. Actually, I think Body Press could be one of the ways that this Dondozo has the option to get a little bit ahead of the game. If the Tatsugiri comes in, it gets its speed boost, it gets a defense boost as well, boosts up the Body Presses, probably would be able to get the KO on Urshifu this turn and be able to stop that being a threat for later on.
Yeah, 100%. And we've seen that kind of option in Game 1 as well, and Marco played quite defensively to try and get around that option, which he seems to have done here as well. Makes sense to preserve it, to try and get that Wicked Blow later on in the game. Instead, Whimsicott comes in, which resists all of this Dondozo's attacks, the Fighting Dragon and the Ground-type moves, and then can Encore it and lock it into something that it maybe then doesn't want to be using. Weezing straight out as well. Tatsugiri comes in, and here come the boosts.
Here come the boosts. Absolutely, we're going to see Tatsugiri combining with Dondozo and getting those stats to its name. And it's a great switch in there for the Whimsicott. Going to be resisting Body Press if that's what the Dondozo has landed into that slot. But of course, it could be just going for a little bit of a boosting more strategy, going for an order up. But no, it's a Body Press into the resisted Whimsicott. And a low kick coming out onto the Dondozo. Any damage is good damage, I think, at this stage of the game.
Yeah, it definitely is. And now, interestingly, this Iron Hands doesn't actually have an electric move, similarly to Luca Ceribelli's team as well. So low kick is going to be the most powerful move or option there, in or out of Terra. So Marco kind of has his end game at the moment here. Just keep low kicking with that Iron Hands whilst it is still on the field as Poison kind of ticks down. Now this Whimsicott can easily encore into that Dondozo to stop it protecting and then healing up again, and that's going to make it a little bit easier to kind of play around in the end game, especially if body press is locked into and Miraidon comes in. That makes the Dondozo a little bit safer, as Miraidon should be able to survive that attack.
And certainly more importantly that Miraidon isn't susceptible to an Earthquake, and so can lock into an Electro Drift, or probably more likely a Draco Meteor, because that Terra is available. Here it is, the Encore into Body Press, which both, of course, Pokemon now on Marco's side of the field resist.
Yep, and there's the low kick into the Dondozo. So we've just got to get the Miraidon in safely if you're Marco. Now, Body Press is still very powerful here, right? That's still +2 defense because from the boost. So that's probably still going to be easily a 2-hit KO on the Miraidon. So you don't want to risk a critical hit coming in. So you probably want to allow that poison to kind of just generally tick down at the moment. And because it doesn't matter about any attack boost this Dondozo gets, because your Miraidon is going to outspeed us either way. So Tailwind comes up to make sure everything is starting to outspeed here, but still not the Iron Hands. Poor Iron Hands.
Yeah, poor Iron Hands still not being able to outspeed this Dondozo. Oh, critical hit low kick coming out there. Definitely speeding a lot of things up there, but I do think Marco is in the driving seat right now. We just got there a little bit quicker. But it is a really important part of timing about what John's trying to do here, trying to target down into the Iron Hands instead of the Whimsicott. You want more health in this scenario, but you want the Encore to run out as the Whimsicott has been knocked out, so you can go for a Protect, so you can use that leftovers recovery. Now, with that critical hit, it's going to make it much harder for this Dondozo to stand up to a Miraidon in the back.
Yeah, 100%. Marco can probably lock into a relatively safe Electro Drift, for instance, and would likely still KO even despite the Terra Grass that might come out. Marco's probably more familiar with the counts than I, but I'm sure he wants to avoid doing that 90% Draco Meteor.
And the Moonblast going before the Dondozo Whimsicott is doing very well for itself right now. And a Drain Punch going into the Tatsugiri there rather than Dondozo. I think Marco wants to get an opportunity for the Miraidon to come in while there's still some Tailwind opportunity available for him, so that the Miraidon is able to attack without being attacked by Dondozo first.
And I think what's quite crucial as well is that if you KO the Dondozo now, and then with a follow-up attack from its partner, at that point you can then hit the Tatsugiri without the Tatsugiri having the opportunity to attack.
Yes.
Therefore you get around its Focus Sash.
Yeah, exactly. Urshifu coming into the fray here. We've still got one more turn of Tailwind left at least on Marco's side, so that Urshifu will be able to just lock in a Wicked Blow and be able to pick up the knockout here onto the Dondozo. And Tatsugiri is going to have to take a little bit of an attack here from the Iron Hands, and it's going to be the Drain Punch, making sure that it also doesn't get knocked out this turn. It gets that HP recovery back.
There it is. So yeah, the poison does not take it down this turn. So it's looking like Marco is in such a good position here. And it may not even be Miraidon in the back. We never know, to be honest. Urshifu and Iron Hands is looking very strong right now. But Weezing is the final Pokemon. But again, most likely slower than either of these targets too. So the Urshifu most likely picks what it wants to kind of deal with at the moment. But Protects are back on the field for either of these targets. So there might be a potential way, but yeah, with Brian on the back, I'm not sure if there is.
Yeah, I think the Urshifu was proven to be a little bit faster, and it is Marco that is going to be progressing into day 2.
Marco Silva has absolutely gone golden here for our final round at the Birmingham Regional Championships of our day 1, and they are through to day 2 as well. And in a really well-fought battle as well, after what looked quite like a rocky start, honestly. But Miraidon still showing to be arguably one of the best restricteds we've ever had.
Yeah, I think that's easily the case. So is Calyrex Shadow Rider, to be fair. Yeah. No Groudon, but yeah, definitely up there. I think it's a really good example of how to play Calyrex Shadow Rider really well from Giant's side, even though he wasn't able to continue to win games 2 and 3. In game 1, he showed us the way that you can take advantage of your opponents and make those reads, get that damage onto the field with Astral Barrage, even if it's not picking up the knockouts that maybe we expect Calyrex to be doing, it's still put enough spread damage onto the board to be able to put Marco in a really tough spot. But Marco was able to making sure that he was targeting down into that Calyrex Shadow Rider and having the ammunition to be able to dispatch of this Dondozo as well.
Yeah, there it was, that Drake and Meteor. It was a critical hit, so we might never know as to, like, how much that mattered in that game, but, like, still so much damage from Miraidon. It's no wonder it's just choice specs on, it seems to be on every single Miraidon. It's just the same set. It's just so good right now, and it is the one that won the World Championships for a good reason.
Absolutely. Here we go, the Heavy Slam going into the Weezing, knocking out. Abilities are back.
Abilities are back.
Abilities are back, David. And yeah, that was another factor of this game. A lot of these matchups where it's very difficult to be able to knock out Weezing, but because it was the Galarian Weezing, because you need that fairy coverage when you're paired with the Calyrex Shadow Rider, players can take advantage of it with that Steel-type coverage in the Heavy Slam from Iron Hands.
Yeah, they certainly can. And it was just a really great showing of the Urshifu Single Strike, which is kind of arguably the sort of switch-up that a lot of players have been going with, or adaptation.
Must be the matchup that Marco's been preparing for with the Urshifu Single Strike. I mean, Rapid Strike has been across the board, just a little bit more consistent overall. And of course, we've talked Rillaboom, Incineroar, and Urshifu as a combination quite a lot. Obviously, it's the one that a lot of trainers are sticking to. But that Urshifu Single Strike really does flip a lot of different matchups on their heads, and with the prevalence of Calyrex Shadow Rider, it is our most used restricted in day one. It's a really great call for trainers to be able to make coming into this event.
And I remember in regulation sets EU as well, and other previous regulations where we had Urshifu, in that Urshifu Single Strike was often a choice for trainers to put onto their team if they were struggling with the Dondozo matchup as well. Right. Because it does just blow through those defense boosts, but it's not Surging Strikes, which is then resisted, obviously, by Dondozo. So you can see its duality here on Marco's team, where you can really hit into those Pokemon so hard, and just such usefulness across the board.
Yeah, I think that's certainly something that we're going to want to be thinking about coming into day two a little bit more. But of course, Marco Silva, our player, making it into day two. I want to hear a little bit more about his run, so take it away, Costa, for an interview with our winner from round 8 of the Birmingham Regional Championships.
A little bit more is exactly what we've got in store. I am here with none other than Marco Silva, of course. Day 2 competitor, amazing international champion, extraordinaire, as well as regional championships. Marco, welcome. We truly need to stop meeting like this, my friend, because it is very consistent. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. Of course, I didn't practice a lot for this tournament. I don't really like this regulation, so I didn't really want to like practice a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually I came here mainly to practice for UIC, since I didn't practice like in online. I really enjoy playing this tournament. So yeah, I'm glad I'm able to continue in day 2. And I'm really happy, of course.
Oh, naturally speaking, I was going to ask you sort of half answered my question is, wow, you've already done everything. You're number 1 worldwide, you're number 1 EU, of course, on the leaderboards. You're just coming hot off the heels of LAIC, and the sort of motivation from the sounds of things is preparation for EUIC. So do you feel like it's so crucial for you to be able to do it to the point where you still need to be rocking up at these tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, like maybe I feel like, I don't know, like I don't really like playing too much like testing, if it's not like a tournament. So yeah, like I feel like in my case, in my specific case, I really need to like go to these tournaments, because if I would know, like, let's say if I'm just going to UIC and skipping like the old Reg G, I'm probably going there like not really prepared. And of course, like I want to perform well, but then like when you set like a goal in your mind, you also have to like think of like a way to get there. And in this case, I know that I have to like play some tournaments, because if I don't test at all, I'm not going to perform well. You're going to feel like you're falling a bit out of form. Yeah, exactly. Right? And obviously, you've got 1 international championship belt under,
in this season. Clearly, it sounds like you're looking for the second one. But obviously, we've got a day 2 regional here at Birmingham. So talk to me a bit about that set. It looked quite intense. Joanne did a really good job in being able to run away with that game 1, had a lot of pressure with the poison gas of the Galarian Wheezing, which essentially, it feels like the goal of it was to actually, I think, set toxic spikes, whittle down your Pokemon, allow the Dondozo to sweep. So your adaptation, on the other hand, was really cool. You had the Terra Bud Iron Hands that we saw Luca grab up that championship title with that World. So do you feel like it's really put out all the stops for yourself today?
Yeah, so I mean, in general, in this particular matchup, I feel like the matchup in general was in my favor.
Okay.
I didn't really understand exactly what I need to do in game 1, and also he took a lot of risk with like the Astro Barrage in front of Dark Urshifu, and he was able to like call me off guard. Then he got also some turns with Dondozo, and yeah, at some point I think like as soon as he KO'd my Whimsicott, the game was completely over.
Right.
And yeah, I actually like. After that turn, I was like, maybe I can win, because then I KO Dondozo, I go for Dream Punch, and then, yeah, I win. But then I didn't read on the team sheet that the Tatsujiri was actually Focus Sash.
Oof, okay, that changes things.
So I clicked Close Combat, I was like, okay, yeah, then I just attack and win. And then I realized, oh wait, it's Focus Sash, so then it's gonna leave, and then helping again, the Astro Barrage KOs everything.
Right.
I tried to go for, I still try to like find a way to win, even after that. And I figured out that my only way to win, because it was always going for helping in the Astro Barrage,
right.
Only way to win was creating the Sucker Punch while getting in with the Iron Hands, so he gets the Life Orb, and then it's Tatsujiri at 1 HP against Miraidon and a win. But of course I need to get a crit.
That is true, but at least you identified the win condition, right, in that case. But then we saw in game 3, you know, you really put the foot to the metal in terms of trying to catch out that Sucker Punch, which really was able to absolutely delete the Calyrex Shadow Rider. But it felt like, did you at the time feel like that was a bit of a pin because you had the Iron Hands following up as well?
Yeah, in game 3 I definitely went for a pin, like with Sucker Punch and Drain Punch. In fact, like I feel like, so the matchup I feel like also is really, really in my favor, because if he switches out, like he has to get in with Dozo, and then with Dozo it's kind of hard to like maneuver between your mons.
Right.
So yeah, by going for like Sucker Punch and Drain Punch was really, really safe. Of course, if he doesn't Terra and I don't get any damage on Iron Hands or Shifu, it's even better. But even if I do, it's okay, because after turn 1, I already got a lot of damage on Wheezing, so then like I'm kind of able to clean up with Miraidon and Whimsicott. Also, I was careful with like the Wicked Blow and on like when I was supposed to give a like KO Dozo, so then he gets a Tatsujiri. And yeah, once I had that figured out, it was pretty easy.
Yeah, I guess because it's all about trying to break down that Dondozo pairing and essentially even try to guarantee that you break the sash as well to be able to capitalize off of positive momentum, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. I mean, you did an incredible job at it. You, of course, are in day 2. So I want to quickly cover your inspiration with the team that you chose. Obviously, it's a variation of Luca Cheribelli. I think it's the world's winning champion title team, should I say, sorry, of course. But you have the single strike Urshifu over the rapid strike. Is that, what sort of matchups does that cover and promote for you to try to tackle this return to regulation set, G?
So at first I was kind of struggling. Like, of course I talked to Luca because we're on the same team and we're really close friends.
Yeah.
And he told me like a little bit about how the team worked and everything. And yeah, he actually suggested me, he told me that like for how the meta is right now, like Dark Urshifu was better. I was kind of struggling also into like the team with like Psychic Terrain, like in DD, this type of stuff. So of course Dark Urshifu helps with that. I guess like it's kind of like a gamble as well, because for example, like the round before, I lost against Calyrex Size that was Terrafire. It was like a team that was going around between like around wards. And yeah, I didn't really color for it, and I feel like I had to get like all the turns right. I didn't get any, so then I just got rolled by my opponent.
Oof. Okay, but it happens, right? Like, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be variants that you need to be able to tackle through, especially when it comes to trying to at least guarantee that day 2, of course, which you have been able to do. So, generally speaking, you feel like the team's still strong going into the meta. You expecting more of it to surface, even going through to EUIC?
So more of it, I'm not really sure, because for example, one of the toughest matchup is the Zamazenta team. Of course, like if I'm going to an event knowing that Zamazenta is really common, I have my game plans.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like I don't think it will pick up too much usage, but like this team is probably like the the most broken team in the format.
Yeah.
And if you play really well, like you're still able to like outplay like most of the matchups. So I feel like I mean, if people haven't tried it yet, they should, because this team is really, really broken.
You heard it here, folks, from Marco himself, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's even more broken when it comes to such an experienced trainer like yourself being at the helm, piloting it through, of course, the day 2. So I guess, talking about day 2, gonna let you go ahead and get some fantastic rest in order to prep for tomorrow. But before then, do you have any shout-outs that you would like to give?
Oh, I definitely want to shout out Luca Cirvelli for helping with the team and like also helping with like game plans and spreads. And of course, I want to shout out Il Server, my competitive team, and also Momo Nation.
You heard it here. Thank you so much, Marco, for your time. Super appreciate it. We are wishing you the very best luck going into tomorrow, of course. But here, it's not all over just yet. We're going to be going ahead into a very short break before returning so we can close out the show. So thank you very much, and we'll catch you in a bit.
Absolutely phenomenal here from Luca. He had it all planned out from the start.
My favorite Pokemon type, it's Ghost. I don't know. It just feels right. It's a great type.
We jump into the very first game of the Masters Finals.
I don't think I changed my strategy throughout the tournament. In general, I think it's just a hunch of how you should play. It really just comes down to the plays you're gonna make and how you're gonna adapt to your opponents. My strategy was using Miraidons and Ogerpon Fire and Urshifu Rapid Strikes to run through my opponents.
Fantastic play by Luca, the one-hit KO.
While having Iron Hands and Farigiraf to slow down the pace. Miraidon has been the best Pokemon in the tournament.
That is a massive turn here from Luca.
All the players I faced this tournament have been a challenge on their own. In general, I was worried about some supporter Pokemon, such as Landorus or Rock Ogerpon, when coupled together with other strong Pokemon like Calyrex Ice, Calyrex Shadow, or Terrapagos were really difficult to deal with. I think my strategy to beat this Pokemon was pretty straightforward. I just hoped that I was able to hit them harder than they could withstand.
And that is going to be Luca one step closer to becoming the world champion.
This was my 5th World Championships. I've never gotten this far. I was happy enough with just making it to Top Cut, but I started to realize there was an opportunity to do something even bigger, something that I never even dreamed of. The moment I knew that I was going to win was when I was able to knock out the Calyrex Shadow with Farigiraf.
And he's done it! This is his first major win, and what a one to have!
It was unexpected, but I'm extremely lucky and happy to be where I'm at right now. I want to shout out my family for always supporting me ever since I started playing when I was just 14. My group of friends, they've been phenomenal, and I thank all of them for being there with me.
with Birmingham being the home of the Industrial Revolution, we've certainly seen a lot of inventive team building here this weekend. And even just today, honestly, we've obviously got all of tomorrow as well. So it feels like we've already been overwhelmed with how much exciting matches we've already had. And we'll be able to shortly see who, or at least some of the people who have made it into day 2 tomorrow. This final round is still all wrapping up after our stream match as well, so we don't have all the players, but we do have a few of them to show you as to who has maybe made it and is still then in contention for our top cut. So, any highlights, you guys, so far?
I think for me, that's Mungus clutching the combination of the body press into the Draco Meteor. I love a well-trained Pokemon. I love a perfectly trained Pokemon. And Calvin Foster, we can see at the bottom there, was able to train that Amoonguss absolutely perfectly and clutch that survival.
Yeah, I mean, looking down the list, look at all of the players that are there that we can see. All of the names, Flavio Del Pidio and Alex Gomez and Salahuddin Stern, that was able to get our first seed here in Birmingham going into day 2. So many more names, Costa.
Yeah, genuinely. And a lot of not only familiar faces, but new faces as well, at least with new accolades that they could put to their VGCV. And yeah, a lot of inspirations as well with online tournaments, grassroots tournaments recently, but more importantly, we just saw Marco, for example, bring that Worlds team straight through to day 2, Luca Cherubelli, with his own sort of variation of having that single strike Urshifu.
Yeah, and actually, interestingly, that Florian Tembe was there as well, who was one of our regional champions from a couple of years ago as well. We haven't yet shown on stream, but maybe we'll be able to tomorrow. And speaking of the start time of tomorrow, make sure you're tuning in right on time for us here. It's going to be like a little bit later then. So you've got the 9 a.m. GMT if you're local to the UK area, or if more in Europe, it's going to be 10 a.m. Or if you're over in Pacific area, it's going to be 1 a.m. if you aren't feeling too tired. So, like, good luck if you're going to be, like, watching at that point too. But if not, then feel free to catch up on the VOD afterwards. Or even try and fast forward a little bit so you can catch us up once you're awake as well. But any other highlight moments, Costa, have you got any favourite moments?
For myself, okay. It's going to have to be Flavio Del Pidio with that Groudon display. Unfortunately, I have to own up. I have to say it. It was amazing. What are you doing, Ben?
You can join Team Magma if you admit the Groudon's the best.
Oh, that's pushing it far, but I will try to take his spirit into consideration. So you know what? Sorry, Odo.
Yes.
No way.
Live conversion.
Love that.
Wow. There we go.
There we go. Team Magma.
Unbelievable. Not even the right weather setters, like, whatever.
Yeah, anyway, yeah, you guys stay over there.
The Cali couch has turned into the Groudon couch.
Apparently so.
You will see tomorrow. Some of our Kyogre players will be able to take it further. Calvin Foster's got this for me. Right, anyway, so have a look at our Twitch schedule anyway to see what we've got on later this week as well. If you also can't decide between Groudon or Kyogre as well, and give yourself a little bit more time too. So, as you can see there, on Tuesday, we've got Pokemon Black and White Adventures in Unova. And Wednesday, we've got Latin American International Championships Go rerun as well. I've been getting to Pokemon Go a little bit recently as well. Very, very fun game as well, but still kind of scratches that itch in terms of the tight matchups and the Pokemon that you've been using and all those moves too.
Yeah, I really like that. It's a very, very deep format and something that the community is absolutely fantastic in Pokemon Go, as it is in all of our Pokemon series games. Of course, on Thursday, we're going to the Black and White region Adventures in Unova, and then going on to Saturday, where we have the San Antonio Regional Championships as well, of course, as Sunday.
Yeah, we certainly do. So definitely tune into that. But of course, that's over across the pond. We've got our own EU regional calendar as well, where we've got a few more events for the rest of the 2025 season. Namely, for us next will, of course, be that European International Championships. Jamie, you excited for that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The European International is such a great tournament to be able to see what kind of innovation has been brought from the regionals into the big one, the big international championship. This is our last chance over here in the Birmingham Regional Championships to try and influence that meta. We've just seen San Antonio is going to be next weekend. How is that going to shape things up as well?
Yeah, like a really good question. I mean, we've seen Sneasler kind of pop up a little bit here. We've seen Ushbu Single Strike taking on the rise a little bit as well. So I think we'll still see some adaptation across San Antonio and into EUIC too. But yeah, Costa, plenty more events, aren't there? Any highlight kind of cities for you that you've maybe been to before or you'd like to go to?
I mean, a lot of lovely cities remain, as well as general regions, Stockholm, Seville, Utrecht, Bologna, all that are going to be so decisive into the build-up, of course, over at New Orleans for the North America International Championships, which is going to be our final major event stop before World Championships held in Anaheim, North America.
And between those, of course, you can also attend your local events as well, or throughout all of that, to get that extra bit of championship points if you are trying to squeeze into that invite, or that top 75, for instance, if you're in the EU or the NA region as well, to make sure you squeeze in and don't miss out on the best finish limits that you can also get to. So you can make sure that you're following on all of those channels and making sure you're following on for when those Twitch schedules do come out for those events too on the Pokémon website at pokemon.com/broadcast there too, to make sure you don't miss a moment, and every single weekend is on there as to what's going on future regionals too. For one, I'm definitely putting a lot of that in my calendar. Just like you and I were talking, Jamie, we've put Japan Nationals in our calendar as well, haven't we?
Yeah, the innovation that comes out from the Japanese players in their best of one closed team sheet format, the surprises that can come out are absolutely fantastic. 21st and 22nd of June is another date that I'm absolutely putting in my diary.
Excellent. So we're going to have a look at other channels now that you can also follow too, to make sure you're still not missing out, even if you're afraid of websites as well. So /Pokemon YouTube and /Pokemon on Twitch as well. You can also make sure you're following along. We'll be broadcasting on both of those for the live events as well. And you can also follow along on socials using that hashtag #PlayPokemon or @PlayPokemon on X, /Pokemon YouTube, of course. We're on Facebook and on Instagram as well with that same hashtag #PlayPokemon. And we'll be maybe able to feature your posts or tweets at future events as well, as we've already done today. Hopefully we'll do more so tomorrow. Well, that's all for us here at day one at the Birmingham Regional Championships for now. And of course, we'll be back for day two for more exciting Pokemon VGC action. But for now, good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.